Welcome, everybody, to Strengthening Regional Collaboration and Cooperation. Here today. Really, this is the opening webinar in a series of webinars that will be hosted that are in support and supported in collaboration by and with the Hollings Center for International Dialogues. And we will look at education, higher education in Afghanistan, discuss a little bit about the cultural context, what it's like on the ground. We'll hear from some of our speakers who have been in Afghanistan in working in higher education and for a number of years. And then we'll look at the and discuss the Yunus Professional Masters special program for Afghanistan, which is based at the Yunus Center at AIT. And really, we have Dr. Faiz again.
Here we
Apologies, Dr. Faiz. I think you might have to start again. We didn't hear the first objective, so you came in good timing.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
The first objective, as I was saying, is to gather people around who wish to become part of this program and find out how to make that shift from where they are now to a kind of an opportunity, a door that opens opportunities for them. The second opportunity for me, perhaps, is to also attract people who are interested in supporting, either as funders or as faculty or as just friends, to rally support for such a program so that we can resource this to at least the amount that it will be meaningful for people in Afghanistan. So with these two objectives in mind, I'd like to welcome the panel. I'd like to also appreciate particularly the Hollings Center for being part of this as well, and particularly to this initiative that achieves not only the purpose of reaching out to people, but also to showcasing what the Hollings Center does in its work, and then with its work through other people's work like ours. So welcome, and I hope to be part of this program right to the end, but you probably won't see me very much. So welcome once more. Thanks, Saifa, for having this together and for moderating this as well. Thank you, Kelly, and the panel for making time.
Thank you, Dr. Faiz, for the remarks. And I would like now to segue into the second opening remarks from Michael Carroll, who is the executive director of the Hollings Center for International Dialogue. And he will be speaking to the enabling mechanisms and actions being taken globally to support higher education for Afghan citizens. So this webinar really builds on and is supported by the Hollings Center and in collaboration with the Hollings Center to organize a global international summit last year. And there was a key dialogue focused on the future of higher education in Afghanistan, and there is an excellent summary report of the dialogue. So I will post that in the chat for anyone who is interested in looking at this. And really, the aim of the dialogues was to foster cooperation between universities and other institutions of learning through the of a series of dialogues focused on issues of significant importance in higher education communities in the US, in the Middle East, North Africa, South Asia, Europe, and Eurasia. And the participants included distinguished university presidents, administrators, senior officials, and educators from over a dozen countries. So this webinar is really building on the work and the results of those dialogues to look at how we can continue to support higher education in Afghanistan. So I would like to hand over to Saul. We are going to have a recorded remarks from Michael, who wasn't able to be here with us today.
Thank you very much to Mohibi, Kelly, and all of our distinguished speakers today. As mentioned, I'm Michael Carroll, the Executive Director for the Hollings Center for International Dialogue, and my colleagues and I at the Yunus Center are pleased to provide support for this initiative, joining along with others who seek to protect and strengthen higher education in Afghanistan. Support for Afghanistan's higher education system has long been a part of the Center's programming, dating all the way back to our foundation in 2005, and we're happy and pleased to be continuing this initiative even in light of recent challenges. Now, the accomplishments of the last 2 decades of international support for Afghanistan's higher education cannot be understated. It wasn't a failure. It was a success, and the number and quality of higher education institutions greatly improved during that time. This in turn created a population of impressive human capacity that wants to be part of the international community. The stakes here are clear. They don't need further analysis or debate. Recent actions by the Taliban regime to suspend women from participation in higher education and the ongoing crackdown of NGOs supporting education is clearly the part of a concerted effort to roll back the gains of higher education over the past 2 decades. In too many international meetings in recent years, I've heard that higher education stands at a crossroads. I disagree. The crossroads is already behind us. Many of us who care about this important initiative have already set their path. It's now up to us to chart the road forward, course correcting as we need. Let me give you a few examples of what I mean. Examples that came up in recent Yunus Center dialogue programs that looked at this very important issue. Now, even a closed door still lets some light through, so we should seize upon those openings no matter how small they are. One ray of light is that this is not 1996. The infrastructure remains. The internet isn't in its infancy, and we're not starting from scratch. More Afghans have received an education in recent decades, especially women, and while there are notorious efforts to suppress that, that is not something that can simply be reversed, especially for those that are already educated. We must do what we can to offer opportunities to these scholars and to allow for further study abroad, whether virtual or in person. Doing so will have important ramifications for a generation of girls now being denied education. And with effort, these gains can be passed on to the next generation by those who have already been there. Now, the continued availability of the internet in Afghanistan, even with its restrictions, has created an open door to continued online education and scholarly collaboration. Unlike the previous era of Taliban rule, there are technological tools that can permit access for Afghan students and scholars to course offerings and connections with their international colleagues. Very basic tools like VPNs, encrypted messaging, even eSIM cards can provide a modicum of security for those wishing to continue study. And even in areas of technological limitations, or more importantly, where participation in higher education could be a significant risk to the individual, we have the option to deploy asynchronous learning concepts. While not an ideal, obviously, for certain pedagogical standards, this still provides options to those that are self-driven and determined. Seminars, like the one we're participating in right now, can deploy all types of strategies that are free of borders and time zones. I'm a perfect example of this right now, recording my presentation for later viewing. Now, models for course delivery exist all over the world. A good example would be the massive online open courses, or MOOCs, but we can still utilize decades-old models like correspondence courses supported by simple technology like email that are less dependent on bandwidth and continuous access. The importance of partnerships between academic institutions can provide critical lifelines to institutions and faculties still operating in Afghanistan. While not all fields of study have resumed, many institutions have reopened. Partnerships in certain faculties, like engineering, that remain open should be pursued by international institutions. Carefully crafted agreements between institutions in Afghanistan and abroad can address some of the hesitancy on the part of international actors. And thankfully, activities in support of education of Afghanistan, including reform, exchanges, and access, are not subject to U.S. sanctions against the Taliban per OFAC licenses. An example of what's possible is this collaboration between the Yunus Center at the Asian Institute of Technology and Sustainable Smiles on a series of webinars. Additionally, the Yunus Profressional Masters, the special program for Afghanistan, is an excellent example of what can be done. The ability for Afghans to receive advanced certification and internationally transferable degrees will provide more opportunities down the line for students and scholars. This is achievable today, and we should encourage institutions, NGOs, and governments sources worldwide to provide modest financial resources for faculty time to support these programs. There are government grant opportunities for these initiatives, especially when it comes to academic exchange. We should seize upon those while those opportunities are open. The international involvement in Afghanistan engaged in many projects to preserve and archive Afghanistan's rich cultural heritage, such as art, poetry, and oral histories. With foresight and recognition of past crises, many of these efforts included the creation of digital archives. This has created an opportunity to continue and further the field of Afghanistan studies by Afghan and international scholars alike, both within and outside the country. Access to these archives for free over the internet, especially to Afghan scholars, can help ensure that there will not be another lost era of scholarship. This is achievable now, and several institutions and archives have already done this. More should. These examples are only a snapshot of the opportunities available to preserve gains in Afghanistan's higher education sector. The true challenge will be one of initiative. As the events of August 2021 become further in memory, we risk complacency in the international community. Now is the critical time to keep this issue in the minds of our colleagues and friends as the emerging crisis of the last 18 months fades from view. A mentor of mine once used the following phrase to describe education. It's a silver bullet with profound impact on many of society's challenges. It just takes 25 years to reach its target. I say this because the actions of today will matter so much more for the next generation. So while the scope and the scale of the challenge before us may seem unattainable, we must remember as educators that even if our efforts only make a small dent in the system, our actions can have real benefit to the individual, sometimes life-changing benefit. So my thanks to all of you for your participation in this program. I'm looking forward to interacting with you in the future seminars of this series. And I close by saying that we here at the Holling Center stand with you and wish you the best of luck in these ongoing initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael, for being here with us in spirit, and thank you for those words of hope and that real sense of positivity that came from your words. I completely agree. I think it's in these, in these discussions, in these interdisciplinary, intercultural discussions, where we can really start to raise the awareness and kind of tease out some of the complexities around the situation, and essentially, the message of hope that comes through, especially when speaking about the potential for education, in the context of post-internet, or the world that we live in that is so well connected. So it's it's inspiring to get that sense from you too. So I would like now to introduce our first panelist and speaker, Dr. Abdul Aziz Mohibi, who is a research scholar and who was previously the Chancellor of Bamiyan University in Afghanistan and is currently now based between Trinity College and Maynooth University in Ireland. Dr. Mohibi is an agriculture and environmental engineer from Afghanistan who specializes in natural resource management, disaster risk reduction, and land cover. And he was a lecturer in the Department of Forestry and Natural Resources in Kabul University. And he also worked with a number of international organizations, such as the UN Environment Programme. And Mohibi was also a consultant with the Afghanistan Parliament for one in the Commission of Natural Resources and the Environment, and the Chancellor of Bamiyan University until August 15th in 2021, when the central government of Afghanistan collapsed and the Taliban resumed power. Mohibi received his master's degree from AIT and his PhD from Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology. And I had the pleasure myself of working closely with Dr. Mohibi in Afghanistan for on and off for about 3 years. So it's really a pleasure, Dr. Mohibi, to welcome you here today. And thank you so much for being with us. And Dr. Mohibi will speak a little bit about the current state of affairs in the development and higher education sectors in Afghanistan, just to give us a little bit of a sense of what it's like on the ground, what higher education is what's going on at the moment. So thank you for being here with us to provide us some of that context and tell us some of your story, Mohibi.
Thank you very much, Aoife, for your nice introduction. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon, everyone. And I'm very happy to be here and talk about Afghanistan higher education. As you may know, education plays a vital role in nation development, such as societal, economic, technical, and etc. The history of Afghanistan education has many fluctuations. Recently, the education section was improving. There was a promise, as Michael mentioned, that the education sector was improving in Afghanistan. This sector would progress faster than many other sectors in Afghanistan. For example, in higher education sector between 2002 and 2021, with just 7 institutions in 2001, all of which was public university. By 2020, the higher education sector in Afghanistan had grown to 39 public and 128 private universities. In 2001, there were only 8,000 students enrolled in Afghan universities. Only by 2020, there were around 400,000, and 110,000 of those enrolled were women. But there was 0 female student in 2001. The fall of the government of Afghanistan in mid-August 2021 dramatically affected the higher education sector. A significant number of Afghan scholars and academics who feared persecution by the de facto authority due to their scholarly views and activities have now fled the country and scattered across the world in different countries. The higher education sector faces multiple challenges caused by the incorrect intervention by the de facto authorities currently. First, academic leadership and management in higher education sector is changed and replaced with madrasa mullahs and maulawis, often with strong radical and jihadi inclination. Second, academic and intellectual freedom has disappeared away. Third, academic curriculum is either changed or being changed. The Taliban ideology view secular education as their arch enemy. They have systematically restructured the education sector, including changing curriculum, program of both school and universities. For example, self-censorship by academic experts in the Ministry of Higher Education during curriculum review, and recently they removed some subjects such as human rights, women's studies, welfare and human rights, sociology of war, and etc. But still, the final confirmation is coming of those review by the Department of Vice and Virtue and Faculty of Sharia Law. And this is a kind of very ununderstandable for many people. Fourth, persecution of the scholar and academic is underway in a massive scale. 5, strict gender segregation is imposed, which has affected women, scholars, and students when it comes to women in the education sector. The Taliban have not sufficed to systematic change alone. They largely banned women from secondary education immediately after they took over Kabul. But they closure the higher education to women in December 2022. 6, The Taliban are violating academic freedom in Afghanistan. Cooperative or organizational autonomy has been jeopardized with the de facto government replaced qualified academics with the Taliban fighters. 7, comprehensive individual right to expressive freedom after freedom of speech and freedom to, they ban the freedom of study even, the freedom to teach, the freedom to research, and the freedom to appearance in public, even in publication, and the right to take professional activities outside of academic engagement are violated by Taliban. Scholars and professors cannot express their ideas because of torturing and imprisoning. Okay, there is now a huge risk of collapse of higher education sector and transformation of this important sector into a breeding ground for a new generation of Islamic radicalism and militancy. To protect this sector from collapse, there is need a huge work and cooperation. There is some initiative such as online teaching, but still we should think about its accreditation. There is scholarship options, but this is difficult for all students to get those scholarship. Pressure on Taliban to open a school and university to female, that's also effective from international community. Scholars from outside and also from inside Afghanistan might try to keep the curricula based on current need of society, as well as protect from radicalization. I hope you could support our program to support higher education in Afghanistan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohibi. It's really eye-opening to hear what is really going on the ground and the multiple challenges that are faced, from academic freedom to the curriculum to the leadership to persecution of scholars and the gender segregation, but also to know that there is hope. There has been, a huge amount of investment over the last 20 years. So of course, there is a lot to lose, but also a lot that has been built up. So as you say, it's so important that we can protect this and safeguard the future of our students, the faculty, everybody who works in the higher education sector, from the students to the chancellors to our researchers. So yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. I would also just like to say thank you so much to our speakers who have tuned in from Afghanistan, Dr. Mohibi, yourself, and Dr. Akhundzada as well. It takes a lot of courage to speak out publicly in a situation such as this, where there are very severe, serious security risks. And people who speak out publicly are often targeted. So thank you so much for putting yourselves forward here today and joining and speaking about this, continuing to speak about these issues and your important work so publicly. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you very much for your participation and for the involvement and being here with us today and the messages that you carry. And also just a quick note to the participants in the chat. Now we will have a series of questions at the end for our panelists, but we are monitoring the chat, and if there are any questions from the viewers, please feel free to leave them in the chat, and we will be taking them forward and as we design the future webinars and integrating them, we'd love to make sure we get your questions answered. And we've had a few questions about how people can get involved. So we've left our email, the email addresses in the chat as well. So please feel free to reach out via those emails. And yes, if you do have any questions, please do pop them in the chat or reach out to us directly by email. So now I am going to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Noor Ahmad Akhundzada, who is also a research scholar currently based at Cornell University. And Dr. Akhundzada received his bachelor's degree in geology from Kabul University and his master's in agriculture and a PhD in geotechnical engineering from Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology of Japan. And he was assistant professor and dean of the Faculty of Environment at Kabul University and was responsible for instructing applied hydrology, environmental geology, and natural disasters and hazards. And he conducts research on groundwater resources investigation, climate change impacts on water resources, climate change mitigation through renewable energy sources, peace building, climate change, and migration. And currently he's a visiting scholar in the Department of Natural Resources and Environment at Cornell, and a fellow of the International Institute of Education and Scholars Rescue Fund. Dr. Akhundzada will speak a little bit to the role of higher education in Afghanistan and some of the solutions and ways forward that Dr. Mohibi, you briefly touched upon. And Dr. Akhundzada, I welcome you now to expand on some of the solutions and ways forward that you can see. So thank you for being here with us.
Good morning, good afternoon to our colleague in a different time zone. Thank you very much, Ms. Ifa, for your nice introduction. Actually, today we are talking about Afghanistan higher education. As Dr. Mohibi pointed out, the previous higher education development in Afghanistan, and unfortunately the current sorrow and the current stage of the higher education in Afghanistan. As Ms. Ifa pointed out, I will also talk about a two story of mine that I have a couple of positions in the higher education in Afghanistan during the day of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the previous government. Science and education are the essence and ensure the future of humanity. Education provides a pathway for human development, culture and intellectual growth, and a sustainable and just future. Afghanistan is one of the poorest countries in the world, but it has significant natural resources and strong human potential. Poverty and conflict are the result of illiteracy and distance from education that open the way for internal conflicts and political instability in the country. The past 2 decades were a golden period for Afghanistan's development, which was contemporary with the establishment of the government of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan and the international community support. The development of higher education had a special boom during the day of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. As an example, I would like to draw your attention to a few work I have done in a couple of my appointment in the Ministry of Higher Education of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. In 2013, I was assigned as the Dean of the Faculty of Environment at the Kabul University. The faculty has 3 main departments: environmental science, natural resources management, and disaster management. The department's curriculum, syllabus development, and standardization was most important job. The curriculum was developed considering international standard and national context with the technical support from Montana University and UNEP. I'd like to appreciate a strong support of Dr. Keeley, United Nations Environmental Program teams, Dr. Anders Scanlon, and also Ms. Eva at the time. They had a great support to the Faculty of Environment. In fact, the standardization of the faculty and international linkage paved a path for academic development of the faculty. Faculty, step beside teaching, did remarkable research work, attended national and international conferences and workshops, and pursued their graduate studies abroad. The requirement for students graduate was competitive through doing a qualifying internship, research project, and writing monographs. As a result, the student easily get international scholarship and position in the job market and international organization. At the beginning of 2020, beside my academic position in Kabul University, I was assigned as a Director of Foreign Relations and Scholarship Affairs in the Ministry of Higher Education with the government of Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. This directorate main job was coordinating, strengthening foreign relations and managing the scholarship for the Ministry of Higher Education. The directorate was assigned with more than 40 countries. Actually, this directorate was linked with more than 40 countries, academic entities around the world. One of the mandate of this directorate was managing national fund and international scholarship dedicated to Afghanistan. More than 4,000 scholarships have been received in Afghanistan from different countries, international universities, and development agencies. This was only the 4,000 received by the Ministry of Higher Education, but there was a lot of other scholarships that was dedicated to Afghanistan from a different stream, different program, and different embassies of foreigners to Afghan professors and eligible our competitive student. It was given that we I not mentioned that, like Fulbright scholarship, Chevening, Australian Development Scholarship, EDB, World Bank. It was not in our department because it was directly distributed to qualified Afghans. I mean, all this was a lot, a very big number, and it was the foundation of intellectual development of the Afghanistan. The scholarship, and we initiated a government-funded PhD scholarship for establishing master program in public universities. Through this scheme, 100 PhD scholarship per year were awarded to public universities or public university lecture in a prioritized area. We designed this project yearly. We will give 100 PhD scholarship for public universities lectures, and it was for 4 years. In the 4 years, we anticipated 400 PhD scholarships, and we got a very nice budget for this team, this program, and it was praised by the president of Afghanistan, and actually they had a strong support of that. And it was in the in a national step that we started in that program. Unfortunately, that the Afghanistan Islamic Republic was collapsed by the Taliban takeover. Actually, the above mentioned is a short description of the faculty and activities of foreign relation and scholarship affairs in the Ministry of Higher Education. I believe the 40 public universities and more than 120 private universities, including all educational organizations in the country, had the same or better development stories during the past couple of decades during the day of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. We took take over the rule of the country by the Taliban on 15 August 2021, and the collapse of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, the history and destiny of the country changed in an unmanageable manner. Of this, the 20 years of investment, development in higher education, international cooperation, and partnership were ended. The Taliban established their illegal government and started religious discrimination and prejudice, stopped women from working and girls from education, and destroyed the educational foundation in Afghanistan. Taliban violating human rules and using natural assets and mining of the country for their illegal government operation. As the solution and next step, actually, we are in this situation. The next step is important that we should take in, and it have been taken by different organizations and the Sustainable Smile and other organizations that we today is laying in this webinar. The role of higher education in Afghanistan, education in the development sector of Afghanistan was significant. Higher education was the main development of the past decades. The future of the country will be built on that. However, Afghanistan enemies against this development. Afghanistan intellectuals are sacrificed of this enmity all the time. However, they are committed to their jobs. A large number of lecturers and professors are inside the country, and small portion were going outside Afghanistan. They all use their intellectual force to save the country and try to regain the lost academic assets. We appreciate all the international efforts and assistance in Afghanistan education and higher education. International assistance greatly influences Afghanistan education sector. Currently, any online support to the lecturers, professors, and students working is a great job, saving their lives and keeping continuing the front of education in the country are important responsibility. I appreciate the Sustainable Smile and the Asian Institute of Technology for establishing the Yunus Professional Master program for Afghan and for all partner supports. Afghanistan higher education support is important and vital for country's future development. The current multidimensional problems of the country's higher education are acute and frustrating. Therefore, it needs much more effort and action from the United Nations and international community side to address and reach out the issue of a nation's intellectual assets. What I would like to thanks for all the participants and Sustainable Smile and all the organization and partners. They are working for Afghanistan higher education and they are linking today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dr. Akhundzada. I love what you said there, Afghanistan having such significant, strong human. I think oftentimes we forget when countries are in crisis or conflict and post-conflict that there are, we can forget about all of the gains that have been made and the wonderful scholars and thought leaders and activists, and we tend to see refugees and asylum seekers, but actually really there's a whole nation of incredible human potential and people who are passionate and who just want to do good in the world and who want to learn and give back. And I think you're so right about the next steps and the support from the international community. We need action, and part of that is having these dialogues and raising that awareness and having these conversations, so we can really start shifting the narrative and look at what we can actually do as the international community and how we can start to rebuild those partnerships again. So thank you so much for raising that. And yes, thank you for everyone for engaging in this dialogue and this discussion. So I would like to now introduce our next speaker, Dr. Kelly Franklin, who is the CEO of Sustainable Smiles, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about the Yunus Profressional Masters, the special program for Afghanistan. And just to give a little bit of background about Kelly, she is an educator and consultant with over 15 years of experience in higher education in social program development and community program implementation. And she's worked on a variety of projects in Afghanistan and Thailand, including curriculum development, environmental education, tourism development, and building environmental resilience. And as the founder and director of Sustainable Smiles, she has led the design, implementation, and assessment of Afghanistan's first service learning university course with over 400 students engaging in communities in 32 different projects. So she's specifically interested in ways to help build the relationships of trust between students and community stakeholders and the empowerment of students to contribute to local solutions which serve a role in stabilization efforts. So she's really with Dr. Feiss, Dr. Kelly and Dr. Feiss have really been spearheading this program, and it's really hats off to you, Kelly. You've just done amazing work from the time that I knew you in Afghanistan to now how you're supporting from afar. So yeah, welcome today, and please tell us more about this wonderful program.
Thanks, Aoife. I'm very excited to have this opportunity to introduce our Yunus Professional Master Special Program for Afghanistan, and also want to thank again everyone for joining us today. It was over a year ago now that Aoife, Dr. Mohibi, and I first connected with Dr. Feiss and his team to see how we could develop an innovative program for Afghan students through the Yunus Center at AIT. And as the previous speakers had mentioned, Dr. Akhundzada and Dr. Mohibi, one of the things that really spoke to us was how dedicated and devoted our Afghan friends, colleagues, and students were to their lifelong work and the communities that they served in Afghanistan. In addition, all of us had previously worked with the development, environment, and higher education sectors in Afghanistan and saw this tremendous achievements that Dr. Akhundzada had touched on in the last 20 years. So it was really important for us that our program provided the opportunity for graduate students to increase their opportunities to make impact in Afghanistan, and that our program didn't necessarily contribute to the brain drain that is happening now in the country. So our first efforts were figuring out how can we adapt the existing Yunus Professional Masters program for the unique needs of Afghan students through building their entrepreneurship, sustainability, and social business skills. So to provide some background about our program design and the ways that we are working to adapt the curriculum to the Afghan context, graduates in our program receive a master's in social business and entrepreneurship, and the program is taught between the School of Environment, Resources and Development, and the School of Management at AIT. So students gain a grasp of sustainability and management skills during their first 2 semesters of the program. And in addition to taking courses in these 2 schools, students also embark on a 6-month practicum, which we are currently in the process of developing. And our practicum will design students in workshops, field trips, social business assignments, and a service learning course. And our team has identified 4 thematic areas or leverage points to which we are basing the practicum in context to some of these really pressing development needs in the country. And so these leverage points are access to education, increasing women's participation in tech development and science, energy, wastewater, sanitation, and hygiene, and localized sustainable food systems to improve nutrition and adaptation to our changing climate. And so based on students' background, they will need to select one of these thematic areas to focus on for their social business assignments and service learning course. And to help us inform this practicum, we're going to be hosting 4 more webinars on each of these thematic areas to bring together key thought leaders and experts in these fields to share ideas, discuss challenges, and explore potential avenues for informing the experiential design of our practicum. So we welcome any of you with expertise in these thematic areas to please join our upcoming webinars. And for the service learning course component of the practicum, as Aoife had introduced, we had previously designed and implemented this course at Bamyan and Kabul University in Afghanistan, I believe 7 years ago now. And one of the impacts that we really saw of this program was how it was able to foster student and community relationships and build a sense of social responsibility among our students. So we're really excited now to be able to adapt and bring this course into the Yunus Profressional Masters program. And so through this course, our students will research, design, and implement a social impact project in Afghanistan. They'll learn how to innovatively coordinate projects remotely through building new and existing partnerships with local communities and partners on the ground in Afghanistan. And in turn, we hope that this will enable them to strengthen regional partnerships through the Yunus Global Network. We'll also engage Afghan AIT alumni, such as Dr. Mohibi, in mentoring our students as they work on their social impact projects. In addition to the practicum, we're working to make this program as responsive as possible to the needs of our students and their families. And I'll just give a few examples, being conscious of the time right now. But for example, students can start the program online. AIT is fully set up for a high flex learning modality. All courses are taught or offered online and in person. This allowed, for example, for our first student who joined our program to begin the program remotely while she was waiting for her visa and travel arrangements to Thailand. From what we've seen so far as well, visa processes are very timely. It took our first student only 1 week to receive her Thai visa from Islamabad. And for students who are applying for visas from Pakistan, the Yunus Center has a team on the ground to support students with accommodations and logistics. Another advantage of our program is that AIT does offer the option for or to process visas for family members as long as the student is in good academic standing. We also provide the opportunity for students to take coursework at their own pace. Our students can start the program with a low course load, taking 1 credit the first semester if they choose. This we feel is important if students are needing to improve their English skills or are experiencing mental health issues and are needing some time to adjust before diving into an intensive program. I should also mention that AIT has a very vibrant and some more supportive international community with a very welcoming Muslim community as well for our students. And finally, another unique aspect of our program is that we accept non-traditional students who would otherwise not have the opportunity to pursue a graduate degree program. We select students not based on their academic merit, but based on their potential. We look for candidates who want to make change within their society and look for these, personal drive, creativity, and systems thinking skills for selecting our candidates. With that, I also want to mention our inspiration We have Nobel laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus behind the helm of our program. And as Professor Yunus highlights, we need to replace the assumption that human beings are job seekers with the assumption that human beings are entrepreneurs. Our hope is that our program will play a leading role in creating a generation of Afghan entrepreneurs and social impact leaders. So I'd like to end my talk with a short video from Professor Yunus explaining the power of social business to further highlight what our program has to offer.
Well, everybody knows what a business is. Business is to make money. So that's what we go into business to make money. But social business is different. You don't go into business to make money. You go into business to solve problems without having any intention of personally benefiting from it. So it has a kind of a different direction from a conventional business. Conventional business is profit-centric. You're looking for opportunity where you get the maximum profit out of it. So it's always a kind of a sensing where the money is. But here in social business, you're looking at a problem that you are familiar with, problem of poverty, problem of unemployment, problem of environment, you name it. Pick one problem and come up with a business idea how to solve that problem and remove any intention of making personal money out of it. That becomes social business. We define it by saying it's a non-dividend company to solve human problems. So the critical point is non-dividend, that we don't want any return out of it personally. Company makes profit, that's what it makes it a business. A profit in a sense to become sustainable so that it can run by itself. It's not dependent on charity. So it's a sustainable business. But the profit that is generated is not taken out by the owner of the company. Owner of the company can take back the investment money, whatever money he or she has invested in it. Gradually, he or she can recover that money. But after that, he doesn't want any money out of it because his whole company is dedicated to solving problems. And that's what makes it social business. So this is how it works. And we created a lot of those social businesses. Because when we see problems, you kind of get overwhelmed. How do you solve all these problems? Only way the world has ever seen solving this problem is through charity. That's the only way you can do that. Because in business, you don't do that. In business, you're so busy making money. You have no time to think about solving other people's problem. So that's where the philanthropy comes in. In philanthropy, you give away your money so that the money goes out, does a wonderful job in solving people's problem. But the limitation of charity is money goes out, does the work, solves the problem, but the money doesn't come back. It's a one-time use of the money. But if you can put it in a business format, you put the objective of the philanthropy, put a business engine behind it. So it becomes a social business where you send the money out, get the problem solved, and money comes back. So you can reuse the money again and again and again, endlessly. So it becomes very powerful money. So social business money has endless life, whereas philanthropy money has only one life. That makes it all the difference. So this is where the difference between this philanthropy and the social business and conventional business.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that background about the program, and lovely to hear those words from Professor Muhammad Yunus himself. And it was really uplifting, and I loved the term that, you know, human beings are inherently entrepreneurs. Every human being is inherently an entrepreneur, and you know, this program for me is really about uplifting this generation of social impact leaders, and I think there's an incredible opportunity. Just the challenge and the conflict, the ongoing conflict at the moment, it really does present an opportunity to look at how we have to, you know, review the aid and the model of engaging in partnerships and education and business economics. So it does present a very interesting opportunity, and this program for me is really a really empowering way to look at, you know, how to actually support people, and not just through direct aid, which is absolutely essential in so many contexts, but also through providing knowledge, tools, skills, resources, and the opportunity to become those entrepreneurial minds that we so need. So thank you for that. I guess just as a closing remarks to say, you know, one scholarship really has the power to change the tree of somebody's future, but not only that individual, you know, it can really uplift and transform an entire community and really, you know, a whole country, you know. So education is such a full tool we have to act against poverty, against inequality, and to address some of these really complex issues that are at the root, and we can address them at the root, not just the symptom level. And just thank you so much to all of our speakers for speaking to the important work that you're doing, and for bringing your experience and your knowledge and your message of hope and enthusiasm, as well as, you know, the realities of some of the challenges, which are really important to also be aware of as we go forward in developing programs such as this, and also especially to our Afghan participants as well, and who've had the bravery to really, and the courage to speak publicly and be involved in these dialogues. And thank you also to the organizers and speakers in the background, and all of your tireless work, and the Holling Center, and Dr. Faiz, your incredible work at putting this program together and really moving this forward. And thank you all as well to all our participants for joining in. And it's so important that, as you say, you know, raising awareness, I think, is going to be one of the key ways that we start shifting the narrative, you know, and we build those international, you know, links and partnerships, and we make sure that the international community keeps Afghanistan on the agenda. So please do also join us for the next series of webinars, where we'll be diving a little bit more deeply into the key leverage points and topic areas that Kelly mentioned, the 4 key leverage areas. We'll be bringing together different experts from the field, as well as people on the ground in Afghanistan. They'll be a little bit more in depth, diving into those thematic areas. So we're really looking forward to those. If you know of any experts, or you are an expert in those areas and you are listening, please do reach out to us, because we definitely will support and participation. Please email us if you'd like to be involved. We're also actively seeking funding partnerships. So if this is your area, please also do reach out to us for this. We really do want to have a minimum of 10 scholarships per year for Afghan students, be able to do this program and have this as an ongoing enrollment. So please do share this webinar, you know, raise awareness of higher education today. Faiz, do you have any final remarks? I'm seeing a question in the chat. When is the next webinar? Sorry, Dr. Yes, please.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful program, and it's a great beginning to this series of seminars. I'm so grateful for each of the speakers who've laid out various aspects of this very important program. I'm sorry, there's a lot of noise here. What I was saying was that we at the Asian Institute of Technology are ready to receive students from Afghanistan in this special program. And thanks to the good work of all of you, and from the support that we are receiving already from all over the world, we hope that there'll be a healthy, big cohort of students from Afghanistan who will be able to, if not immediately, eventually return to the country and take it to where all of us want to see Afghanistan. Thank you so much. And thank you for moderating it so well, Ifa, and each of my colleagues, speakers, and so on. All the best then. Cheers. Until the next one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faiz. And regarding the question of the next webinar, we will post it. If you've signed up, we have your email, so we will be sending a link out, and you will also be able to find the on the website. So we will be in touch soon. The next one we're hoping to hold within us. So yes, please stay involved, stay engaged, and we look forward to engaging with you. Thank you so much again for everyone for tuning in. Thank you to all our speakers, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a lovely morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you all are in the world. So thank you.